Hello. Welcome to another episode of Wednesday Thoughts. I'm Carolina and I'm here with Pastor Doug.
I'm back again.
Yes.
Sure. Here.
So today we have something special. Nancy Simaro sent some questions, and so that's what we're going to do today.
Sure.
Answer her questions.
And people out there, if you have questions, submit them to Carolina, and we'll answer your questions in an upcoming episode of Wednesday Thoughts.
Okay, I'm excited. So, the first question that Nancy is asking. In the Bible, there are scriptures about hardened hearts. God hardened Pharaoh's heart. Does God decide if our hearts will be open or hard?
I think the understanding that the human being has free will, that God has created a person to make choices ourselves. We're not like wind up kind of machines that just go without any of our own contribution to what it is we do. I think the best way for me to answer that is whatever's already in your heart is what's going to come out. So I was thinking as I was driving up here today to Worcester, how the rain was beginning to fall. And we're now in early May. And spring is coming late this year. I mean, it's like, hurry up already. But the rain falls into the ground. Whatever seeds are in the ground, when the rain hits the ground, is what's going to come up.
Yeah.
So now there might be flowers, tulips, roses, daffodils, maybe some dandelions, and there will also be any number of different weeds that will come up. So does the rain cause that? In a sense, you could say, if not for the rain, the seeds wouldn't come up, but what comes up is what is already there. And so, when God encounters a person, generally, the reaction that's going to occur is whatever's already in someone's heart. And so when we say God hardened Pharaoh's heart, that would appear in Exodus in the Old Testament. It would probably be Pharaoh found himself confronted by Moses, who was speaking on behalf of God. And now Pharaoh has this opportunity. How will I respond to this? Whatever was in Pharaoh's heart was what was going to come out. And I'm sure Pharaoh's thinking what's in his heart is pride. No, I'm the most powerful man in the world. Nobody tells me what to do. I have Egyptian gods. Now this guy comes from the desert talking about some Hebrew god. I'm not going to go for that. So it was pride that came out of him. And it was a hardened heart, not receiving the word, but what was already there. But if Moses hadn't come and spoken a word from God, that probably would not have come out. So you could say, did God cause that? Or was it God sort of initiating this action that then brought out the response? I know a lot of people, probably the thing in the 21st century, more than anything, that people respond when a word from God comes to them is laziness. You discover that in there's this inability or unwillingness to actually do anything difficult. And the life of faith can be very difficult. Yeah. So what appears to be a hard heart was probably just a laziness to the response of God's grace. So God's grace can soften and can harden, but it depends on what's already in our hearts. So guard your hearts, take care of your hearts, keep your heart clean and pure, and what will come out is what's already been cultivated within us. How's that?
That's good.
But she also wanted to know about hardened hearts. I mean, this is one thing that probably a lot of preachers, I know I have always wondered, how is it that I speak, just one person speaking one sermon or whatever, gets all of these different responses from a lot of different people? It's not like just because I speak, everybody responds the same way. It all has to do with what's in there. And why some people insist till the day they die on being resistant, pushing back against is something only they can answer. But it is in the human heart. And I think sometimes it is pride. Nobody's going to tell me what to do. Or it's laziness. Oh, it's just too much. Or, it's something different. I was gonna promise myself, Doug, you're not gonna talk and talk and talk, and here I am doing it. But do you remember the parable in the Gospels about the man who goes out and sows seed? Some seed falls on good soil and up comes good things. Some seed falls on hard ground and nothing can happen. Some seed falls among the weeds and it gets choked out. It's the same seed, the same person throwing it out, but it all depends on what kind of soil it hits. And I think that's the same with us. So I would really be reluctant, hesitant, reticent to say God hardens hearts. I think God is gracious, God is good, and whatever comes out of people is what's already in there. And now for all of us, there's some bad seeds in there. Believe me, nobody is completely pure.
No.
And so, but it's wise to be aware of that, and we can guard our responses and respond most appropriately and most beneficially if we're aware of what's inside of us.
You were telling us last Sunday that the message is personal. Everybody takes it in a different way.
Yeah. So does God harden hearts? No, I think it's already in a person. When you were saying that, I was thinking about a Swedish pastor. He was visiting here in America, and he was a preaching teacher also in Sweden. And he was talking about the mystery of preaching, and you never know what's going to happen when you preach. He said he was a visiting preacher at a church, and he preached that morning and preached the sermon, and afterwards probably had coffee and was driving home. And as he was driving home, he gets a phone call. And the phone call was from a woman who had been in church that day. And she said, I just called to thank you for your sermon today. I really took it to heart, and I called my daughter. She and I hadn't spoken in a couple of years, and we had a wonderful conversation. I feel as though we've made progress and we're going to reconcile, and it was all because of your sermon. So he says, well, tell me, what was it that I said that really touched your heart? And she began to explain, and he's thinking, I didn't say that. That's not what I said, or that's not what I meant. But it came out, and what was already there was probably something she'd been longing for, and she felt suddenly free to do it. So a lot has to do with what's in our own hearts and our own minds.
Yeah, everybody receives the message differently. Some of us, we have our hearts open, and some of us, their heart is closed and they're not ready.
Yeah, in 2 Corinthians, Paul talks about how he is a messenger of the gospel, and everywhere he goes, he says, he spreads the aroma of the gospel of Christ. He says the interesting thing about that aroma, to some, it smells like the stench of death. To others, the sweet perfume of life. And he says, who's sufficient for these things? I mean, who can figure this out? And so the same gospel goes out. It stinks to some. It smells beautiful to others. And so it goes.
Yeah, it is personal. Okay, the second question. Where can I read or learn more about the disciples? I'm told that Peter hung upside down on the cross. But I don't find this in the Bible.
You can find it in some of the early church historians. There was a man named Eusebius, about the year 200, who really put together a history of the Christian faith and of the movement of the apostles, which occurred after all of the books of the Bible had been written or were still in process and all that kind of thing. And Eusebius talks about the account of the death of Paul and of Peter. And yes, in Eusebius's account, Peter did, of his own choice, choose to be crucified upside down rather than right side up, because he didn't consider himself worthy to be crucified in the same way as his Lord. So So where do I get that? I get that from, I have a Bible dictionary, for example, Harper's Bible Dictionary. Okay? You can order them on Amazon. There are other different ones too, Bible dictionaries. And you go to Peter and they'll talk about the Apostle Peter and so forth, and you'll get information there about him. But yeah, the Bible itself has a limited amount of information about what happened to the disciples who became what we now call the apostles. Apostles means those who were sent. Disciple means student. Apostle means sent. So they were disciples when they were following Jesus. Once Jesus ascended, they were apostles, and off they went. So the Apostle Peter, the Apostle Paul. So, and then...
I didn't know that.
Sí,
we learn every day.
Información para Carolina. And you can Google. I Google a lot of stuff. I'm now to the point, because I've been doing this a long time and I'm pretty highly educated, I know what information I can rely on and what sources are probably a little bit suspect.
But what about someone like one of us who don't really know much about it? How can we identify a good source from a bad source online?
You probably would, you can ask me, and I can maybe get you started in the right direction. And even then, and when you go to the websites, you still have to take it with a grain of salt. You still have to, but it's interesting information, and believe me, in church history and all that, where there's one opinion, somebody else has a contrary opinion, and you just kind of sort it out, and you don't put all your eggs in one basket of one person's opinion. So. Yeah. But the information's out there and available if you really want to know what has been gathered, accumulated in terms of information about the apostles and so forth. I would start by Googling history of the apostles, and stuff might pop up about different books that have been written, and it might have biographies of all the different disciples, apostles, in these books, because believe me, there are all kinds of books about all kinds of things out there pertaining to Bible matters. So you just have to Google it and just consider yourself a detective, and you're going to go searching all the information and so forth.
Google.
That's what I do.
Google. This episode is not sponsored by Google, by the way. Okay, the third question, and this one is my favorite one, Nancy. Very interesting. Some of the disciples, like Peter, were poor fishermen. How is it they wrote Bible passages so beautifully?
Well, okay, so now here again we have, in biblical studies, all kinds of opinions. Now, there are some people who would say that, let's take Peter's epistles, Peter's letters, 1 Peter, 2 Peter, for example. Some would say that wasn't really Peter who wrote that. They just used his name because that gave it more oomph, more authority. It's coming from Peter. That doesn't mean it's bad information. It doesn't mean you can discredit it, but simply the name Peter was borrowed to give it a certain more credibility. And others would say, no, Peter wrote it. Well, I would say maybe we underestimate poor fishermen. Throughout history, before, say, my generation in particular, people were not accumulating all of these different degrees. I mean, for goodness sakes, I have a bachelor's degree, 2 master's degrees, and a doctorate. I mean, I really need all that, like I need another hole in the head. But that's my generation. We're accumulating all of these degrees that seem to give us more credibility, these credentials. Therefore, we possess a lot more eloquence and so forth. But, a couple generations ago, when high school graduates might have taken a few courses and then become ministers, you look at some of the things they write and do, it's actually pretty darn good stuff. So it's not as if they had to go through a lengthy schooling in order to write so well. I think a lot of it too is fairly simple. It's really not complicated language. I think the Greek that the New Testament is written in, when they actually wrote the letters or wrote the Gospels, it's not really highly complex. But I'll tell you one thing. One thing about writing is, and the same thing with sermons, you read something and you think that the guy just sat down with a pen and wrote it and sent it off. And sometimes people think, I just stand up on Sunday morning and I just start talking. Because that's all they see. They don't see everything.
Process.
The whole process. Yeah. And a process for me with my sermons lasts days. And it's a lot of work and a lot of trial and error. And I'm on about my 15th draft when I stand up to actually preach. And so they would think, wow, Doug speaks so well and everything. Well, that's because for the entire week leading up to that, Doug worked his tail off to do this. These guys, when they wrote, didn't spontaneously just write and send it off. I can guarantee you there was a lengthy process involved. And what we actually have as the Bible involved a lot of work. So, they talk about the difference between inspiration and perspiration. I'm sure they were inspired. They had inspiration, but there was a lot of perspiration, a lot of sweat, a lot of work that went into that. So, that's where I tend to go more than, they're just ghost writers. It was just probably some eloquent Greek guy living in Ephesus who wrote these nice letters, and he decided to say they were from Paul, for example, or Peter. And so we think that's who wrote them. No, I think actually those people did, and they worked very hard to produce what we now have as our Bible. So.
Well, that was a very interesting question.
It is. And
So I don't know. I really don't know what to think.
Yeah. Well, it's. I had a New Testament professor, Klein Snodgrass, who, they know all the different angles, all the different opinions, all the different perspectives that go into the New Testament in his case. He said the thing is, when you sit down on a Monday morning and you're preparing for a Sunday sermon, the only thing that matters is what you have before you. All of that other stuff is is unnecessary, because what you really have to attend to is the text that is in front of you and how you and God are interacting through this particular text. And so, and as far as all of these ghost writers and all of these different kind of conspiracy theories and so forth, there was one New Testament professor, Bruce Metzger. He's dead now, but he taught at Princeton Seminary for a long, long time. He said the same people who can hear all of these voices behind the passage are the same people who claim they can hear grass growing. In other words, you don't hear grass. But they're hearing all of these kind of things. They're getting all confused. No, you have what you have before you. Take it for what it is, and just go with it and interact with God through the Holy Spirit with the text, and that usually works very effectively.
Well, thank you so much, Nancy. Thank you for
Nancy,
sending those
you get
questions.
2 thumbs up likes from me for that. Thank you for contributing those questions. And Nancy broke the ice. Now others can join in. Submit your questions to Carolina, and we'll address them.
Yeah, you can send your questions to carolina@greendalepeopleschurch.org. And don't forget to subscribe and give us a like.
Please do.
Bye-bye.
Toodaloo.